Okay, well, that happened. That exists. That's some milk and rice. What's a creamy and cozy dessert I can serve this winter that has a fluffy topping? Betty Crocker's answer? Baked rice pudding. I'm Melinda and I'm cooking my way through Betty Crocker's 1971 recipe card library. Today we are making baked rice pudding, which is from section N, Favorite Family Desserts, card number 12. I'm excited to give this a try. I've never made rice pudding before. I've only had it once or twice. There used to be this restaurant in New York called Rice to Riches that I've been to a couple times. I believe that was cold though. Whereas this is a warm rice pudding that you bake in the oven. It seems pretty simple. I think we're essentially making a custard and you mix that with cooked rice and then bake it in a water bath. And then what I'm excited for is we are doing like kind of a meringue topping. So we'll do dollops of whipped egg whites on top and then you bake that again for a little bit so that they get kind of crispy and fluffy. So I don't know, I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be creamy and cozy and delicious. So let's give it a try. All right, so first things first, gotta cook our rice. So the recipe calls for a half cup of rice and a cup of water. And Betty just says in a medium saucepan, stir together, heat to boiling, stirring once or twice. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this on the stove, get it heated to boiling. All right, our rice has come to a boil, and so I put a lid on it and covered it, and Betty says to simmer it for 15 minutes without removing the cover or stirring. All water should be absorbed. So while our rice is cooking, let's get started on what I'm assuming is a custard. I don't know. Let's get started on the other goo element. So it says in a mixing bowl, mix a half cup of sugar, cornstarch, and salt. So we're gonna start with the sugar, the cornstarch, and she just says a dash of salt. Dash of salt, sure. Do I just mix it a little bit with this guy? Sure. It says beat egg yolks slightly. So I have 2 egg yolks here. We saved the whites for the meringue that will happen later. So we're just breaking up the yolks a bit. Put that in with the sugar. 2 egg yolks in, and now we're gonna add 2.5 cups of milk. And I'm just gonna start it whipping while I slowly put the milk in. Okay, we have something very foamy and frothy and milky here. It's not custardy at all. It's so milky. 2.5 cups of milk, that's a lot. And the rice is already cooked. Part of me was like, oh, it'll just absorb the milk while it's cooking, which I guess it'll absorb more, but we already put double water to what rice ratio. So that rice is gonna come out fully cooked. How much more of this will it be able to absorb? I guess we just have to hope that the egg yolks and the cornstarch do their magic. And once the cornstarch gets heated up and like thickens, because this is way waterier than I thought it would be. Who knows? Okay, let's add the rice in. All right, so it's time to put the rice into our milk mixture. It's a little hot, so I hope it doesn't like cook the eggs. Maybe I'll just put a little bit in at a time. Temper it, as it were, to bring up the temp of the milk. It doesn't feel like enough rice. The rice to milk ratio is questionable. 2.5 cups of milk? I don't know. We're also gonna add a bit of lemon juice and a half cup of raisins, which I feel like the raisins are really gonna do a lot of heavy lifting here in terms of flavor. Gorgeous, cool, interesting. You know, I was reading about the origin of rice pudding because it feels like a very humble dessert, very kind of lowbrow, but it was actually invented to be served to royalty because in the days before kind of global trade routes had been established, rice was actually really expensive and hard to get a hold of. And so to kind of put rice in pudding was kind of a delicacy. And then once, you know, Silk Road, global trade routes came through, a lot of cultures started to get access to rice and it became more of an everyday ingredient. Okay, well, that happened. That exists. That's some milk and rice. All right, I have my casserole dish here. She says to do an ungreased casserole dish. Worries me, concerns me, but I'm gonna do what she says. We're gonna pour it in. Cool. Now, here's what we're gonna do. I have this larger baking dish. Set this in here. Now I'm gonna set this in the oven, and once it's on the rack, I have some recently boiled water in the kettle. I'm gonna pour the hot water into the outer baking dish, so it's in a water bath, but I wanna do that in the oven so that I'm not like trying to like carry this very shaky full thing full of water. So we're gonna do that. Then it's gonna bake for about an hour and a half. We'll check in on it in a bit. All right, our baked rice pudding has been in the oven for about an hour and a half. I just checked on it. I just stirred it up a little bit. It says to bake until most of the liquid is absorbed. We're not really there yet, but I figured we could start preparing the meringue. So we have our 2 egg whites from the leftover egg yolks we used earlier. And put those in our stand mixer, and then I'm slowly gonna turn it on and add a 1/4 cup of sugar, just like a tablespoon at a time, just like really slowly integrate it as it whips. Okay, I think we have a stiff peak. Ta-da! Okay, let's take the baked rice pudding out of the oven and we'll get this meringue on top. How did a claymation Motown band, a free cot spell, and a cross-country train bring one of the most enduring sweet fruit snacks into America? California has always had great grape crops, but in 1878, an unlikely change in weather patterns withered a whole bunch of grapes on the vines. A San Francisco grocer decided to rebrand these shriveled specimens as Peruvian delicacies, and thus the California raisin was born. Sunmaid raisins are the quintessential raisin brand, but it's not actually a single company. It's a cooperative group of California raisin growers. Originally, over 6,000 farmers partnered to create the co-op, which in 1912 just called themselves the California Associated Raisin Company. It was a bit boring, so 2 years later, a local advertiser named E.A. Berg suggested the name Sunmaid. One can assume the iconic logo of the young woman in the bonnet was the titular maid in Sunmaid, but the logo actually didn't debut until years later, when a female representative for the company was seen wearing a bonnet, and it inspired the team to commission a painting of her to use as the logo. Now, while the logo remains iconic, it wasn't the biggest swing that the co-op took to market their product. They sent a train over 2,000 miles across the country, with 60 train cars filled with 1,200 tons of raisins and huge banners across the train for advertising. Soon, all of America knew of the little red box filled with the sweet treat. Over the decades, as processed snacks grew in popularity, the humble raisin declined in sales. So in the 1980s, Sunmaid worked with an ad agency to bring new awareness to the raisin. When promos such as Nature's Candy and sexy salad accessories didn't work, they turned to an innovative animator named Will Vinton to help. He was working on a new style of animation called claymation, and inspired by the resurgence and popularity of the song I Heard It Through the Grapevine, he came up with a fictional Motown band called the California Raisins, who performed the song during commercials during children's television. They were a hit, and the ads put Vinton and claymation on the map. After appearances in Christmas specials, a platinum-selling album, and figurines in Hardee's meals, the California Raisins became bona fide marketing megastars. Soon there were over 300 officially licensed products, everything from t-shirts and lunchboxes to toilet paper and bed sheets. Now raisins have officially entered the pop culture lexicon and have become an enduring snack food. For some reason it says not to take it out of the pan of hot water. It says remove casserole from oven, but not from pan of hot water. I don't know. Make things difficult, Betty. So now I'm gonna take our meringue, and it says drop by spoonful onto pudding. So I'm just gonna plop some on, little puffs. little puff. I want them to be kind of free-form looking, you know? Because, you know, as it browns, all these little like nooks and crannies are gonna little puffy cloud things on top of the rice. Okay, they look a little weird and uneven, but it's fine, it's whatever. We're gonna put it back in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes until the meringue is golden brown. All right, let's try some rice pudding. It turned out so cute. I love the little puffs of meringue on top. I don't know if you're just supposed to like serve a whole puff of meringue as one serving. I might kind of cut one in half and scoop a half. So let's dig in. Oh, it's weird because it looks like a casserole. Like it looks like a savory rice dish, but I have to keep telling myself this is a dessert. It looks warm. It's steaming. I can't really smell anything. Okay, I'm going in for a bit of meringue and some rice and raisins. It really looks like a rice pilaf. Okay. It's gonna be so hot. Oh, I think it's gonna be okay. Okay. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The raisin like reconstituted. So they're just kind of like a fun little grape. And that kind of explodes in your mouth. It's very sweet. The rice is tender. It really just is kind of like a sugary flavor without the raisins. The raisins do add like a more kind of complex sweetness to it, which I enjoy. I'm trying to see what I can compare it to in my head. It's just kind of a sweet goo. It's just a sweet goo. There's nothing wrong with it. It's delicious. It's very warm and cozy. Ooh, it really is an odd sensation because it really feels like I'm eating like a rice casserole, but it's sweet instead of savory. So like everything visually is telling me that this should taste savory and then it goes in my mouth and tastes sweet. And it's very strange, but it's really good. The raisins, it's raisin flavored. It really is like they're adding a lot to the situation. That's good. I like the fluffy little cloud on top. A warm rice pudding. How interesting. How bizarre. I like it. It's just a little weird. All right, baked rice pudding. This was pretty good. I think if you're looking for something like just warm and cozy and like not too decadent, just like simple and sweet, it's a pretty good dessert. I think the presentation's really great with the puffs of meringue. That adds kind of like an elevated nature to it that I think just like the baked rice pudding alone would look kind of sad without it. And I do like the contrast in texture between the like super creamy, dense pudding and then the light, fluffy meringue. The raisin really carried it flavor-wise, otherwise it's just like sugar. So I would be intrigued like what other dried fruits you could put in there to add like different flavor profiles, but I like the raisin. It was enjoyable. I think overall, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 red spoons. Back in the box. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, I've made other kind of meringue topped desserts before, so check out individual baked Alaskas next. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and until next time, happy homemaking.